Here I have this working correctly. Obviously, as the title implies, I'm doing Mythic raid testing today, and just trying to get the links set up properly. Yep. For just getting trinkets and stuff set up, I'm trying out this new helmet that's on the vendor. There's a... I don't think there's a druid weapon, right? Yeah, I guess there isn't. I know there's a blood DK weapon and whatnot, but I have no idea. I'm gonna keep on my current rings, because why not? I don't really feel like changing all this stuff. Could use this necklace, but again, then I'd have to get gems set up, and I don't feel like doing that. Raid testing should start any second now. Seeing what else I need. I'm very tired today. Which also means there's literally zero chance I do a longer stream after raid testing. Obviously gonna do raid testing anyway, so may as well stream it. But yeah, I am not in the mood to stream today. So, you know.
Best keep your weapons ready.
It's up. Let's see if we have it on the right difficulty. Is it on the right difficulty? Alright, so I get to blame Baze. I'm gonna test Druid of the Claw today. I'm just kind of feeling Druid of the Claw right now. Let's see. Apparently, rates up for real this time.
Make this quick.
My raid leader actually confirmed that it's up. So I know it's not a misinformation by our Fury Warrior. think I could probably run this build and be fine. Let's see. Yes, Zul'jins don't really matter here, because we can buy infinite potions anyway, so... Holy shit. Alright. It's Mythic boss testing, alright. That's, slash console script error 0. Slash console script error 0. I'll try to find the exact wording. Apparently the capitalization matters, according to a forum post I just saw, so... What are we doing? Well, if YouTube stream is down, I apologize. Okay, it looks like it's back. I don't know why. I don't know why YouTube's just lying to me. That's fun. Any Ravage packs? Hold on. Did I switch talents? The first mangle after entering combat makes your next maul become Ravage. It definitely did not do that. Huh? Is it bugged? Okay, I have absolutely no idea what's going on with the mechanics. I think they're discussing like what's happening, but I also don't know why Druid of the Claw just isn't working. I mean, I guess I'll just go back to Lute's Chosen. Like, if it's just bugged. Like, I'll make sure that it's... I don't have any macros here or something that are breaking it. I don't think I do. Yeah, I have no idea why. Because I'm running the correct talents. Your first mangle after entering combat makes your next maul become Ravage. Unless I consumed it and didn't notice, I am 99% sure that when I press mangle... Yeah, I'm just making sure they didn't change it when I wasn't looking. It's different now. No? Okay. Okay, it's definitely bugged. It, yeah, some weird shit is going on. Because I can see it, like, for like a split second, it flashes. Now it's doing this. I don't know what they broke. But somehow... Yeah, look, I lost Ravage. What the fuck, Blizzard? Okay, well... I'll test to see if it's, like, Raze breaking it. I don't know. Is there anything that could be consuming my Ravage procs? I guess if I look at my overall damage... Ravage is in my overall damage, but I pressed it at least once. Fuck. The problem is it might be working, and it's just a visual bug, which, frankly, for the purposes of raid testing, may as well be the same thing, because I don't want to sit here the entirety of testing wondering why my icons are not correct. Right, like, at that point, I'd rather just play Loon's Chosen and not have to worry about the icon being wrong every time. But okay. Thank you, Blizzard, very cool. Let's see. Do we get... No, it's just... It's bugged. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'm just playing Loon's Chosen. So it looks like when it's highlighted, I think that means I have a Ravage proc. I don't... It's not consistent, because there you see I have Ravage. And then I pressed it. It disappeared. And then I pressed Ravage again. It definitely consumed the Ravage. And then without me pressing anything else, I immediately got another Ravage proc. I don't think that was an auto attack that insta-procced it. I think it's just... There is some weird shit going on with Ravage right now. So... It's definitely, like, I'm getting some casts of it. It's partially working, but I don't want to sit here and figure out what's bugged and what's, like, actually bugged and what's a visual issue. Guess I just play Loon's Chosen, which is annoying because I played that for last raid testing, and I specifically wanted to play... Well, frankly, I wanted to play Blood TK for this raid testing. Sure. I'll probably ask my co-tank if he wants to swap after this. But apparently we had no other druids, so I was like, I guess I'll bring Mark of the Wilds, and then oh well, I already tested the Loon's Chosen. Guess I'll test Wait, you want it on purple? So okay. Well, you know what might be happening? I wonder if Gory Fur is bugging it. Because I think that's what's causing these flashes, right? And what I noticed is, every time it would flash, that's when it would break. And I would lose my Ravage proc. You know what? That's actually exactly the type of dogshit coding Blizzard would do. Now, it does say Ravage on the talent, but I would not be surprised if they just forgot to code that properly, and it only works with Maul. That's, like, exactly the type of thing Blizzard would do. So I'll try that one more time. All right. And then I guess I could just keep this talent here. There's definitely some sort of mechanic that we're missing, but I'll be honest, there is no universe in which this isn't just like a shitty raid testing boss. There's a lot of times where Mythic raid testing is like this, where there's like a mechanic that they test that doesn't work properly. I mean, there's been many bosses. Like, I think back to Magmarak's initial raid testing, where you're just like, what the fuck is even happening right now? And it's just so much visual clutter, just absolute mechanic slop. Like, this is way too early in the raid to be like a you can just walk in and instantly die within 5 seconds type of boss. I don't know. It's Alright. I have a Ravage. I think actually that might have been it. No, the bug's still happening. Yeah, the bug's still happening. Let me know when you want me to talk. Well, it's definitely... Yeah, you can see. It's just... It's randomly wiping my Ravage. Dude, what is this? This is just... This is pure slop. Like, even if there is... Like, I'm sure that there is something that we should be doing with all of these mechanics that will cause us to not all die. But the fact that this is what the fight looks like, that there's just 50 million things all over the screen, that's just... That is a little bit insane. Because the other issue is, right now, nobody here can figure out what we're doing wrong, because we can't see shit. So, it's just impossible to diagnose the problem. Also, I just, I give up. I don't know why. Okay, my co-tank said he's fine with swapping tanks after this. I will admit, I'm unfortunately a little bit tilted now. It's just not really... Uh, this is Mythic raid testing, alright. I'm gonna open the raid testing forums. Let's see. Do they have... I will say I started making food before we began raid testing. I was gonna grab that at some point afterwards, but I might just tell my raid leader, like, look, can I just, like, AFK? Because, like, right now, we kind of all agree that... I'm also, like, usually when something like this happens, right? So, right now, like, a few people in my guilds have been checking other people's, like, streams and stuff to see, like, are other guilds getting further? And from what they're all saying, the answer is no. Right? So, like, an example of a boss where we got stuck was, like, the Tortollan Explorers on Heroic, which I think was the... outside of Zul'jin, was the only boss we didn't kill. God, Jesus, dude. Yeah, this... Yeah, like, that we initially took a little bit longer to discover, like, how, like, getting the fish from the box works. Then somebody watched that. Will I stream speedrun attempts? Today? No. I've streamed a lot of speedruns, unless we're talking about a different kind of speedrun. I mean, to that, I would have to say, what speedrun attempts are you looking for? Because I have done a lot of 80 to 90 runs. I'm gonna do, by the end of Turbulent Timeways, a very fast 80 to 90. Well, that's actually going to be a very fast 10 to 90, and then, of course, I will still optimize 80 to 90 within that. But outside of that, I might do, like, one more Death Knight run, just because I want to level a Death Knight. So then it's like, if you're asking for speedrun attempts, what attempt do you want to see? Because most likely, I've already done it. You just didn't see the stream. So I've done a bunch of them. Zero to 80? Yeah, I've done a bunch of 10 to 80 runs. Just check my channel, you probably just didn't see them. I'll be doing like one or two more over the course of this patch. Like I said, I'm going to do a very optimized 1090 by the end of the Turbulent Timeways event. And I will probably do one other Death Knight run at some point. Initially, I was going to do that this past week, and then I lost power for 48 hours. But I mean, there's no testing to be done, right? There's no attempts to be done. I've already thoroughly tested it. All that's left is to do the perfect run, which, like I said, I'll do by the end. But yeah, I suspect you have not watched the runs that I have posted, so check my channel. There you go. You'll be waiting for any speedrun streams you find them interesting. Okay? I mean, sure. You can still, again, still watch the VODs. They're up on YouTube. I'm gonna be very busy up until the patch doing raid-related stuff. So, there will be, at most, one speedrun stream until, 12.1. So... Alright, I'm gonna AFK for 5 minutes and finish, this is not the first boss. No, this is boss, like, 5. I'm gonna go finish making my food, though, because at this point, we're making 0 progress. The boss, nobody else is, so it's not like we're missing something. The tuning is just fucked, right? So... They make it any further. Oh, no. Okay, it looks like they did not make it much further in the time that I was away. Maybe slightly. Oh. They made it slightly further. I'm back, by the way, so you can swap back smashing. Okay. I have food, so I'm gonna mute my mic for a little bit. I finished my food. Now that we actually got through the first set of mechanics there. Obviously, we died like immediately after. At this point, I understand how the fight works, which also means that I can very confidently say that this is kind of bloated. Because, like, we're doing it correctly, and it's still really just overwhelming in terms of the visuals. It's a little bit much, right? So, yeah, they need to tune this down a little bit. I don't know if it's like less stuff needs to go out, the numbers need to be toned down. One thing that we're also noticing is the tumors that spawn around the room, which like need to be killed by a certain point in time. Um, they like they feel a little bit excessive. That being said, like if everybody was alive, it probably wouldn't be an issue, but someone in our guild is saying that I think instant dollars made it a little bit further, but they also have like a lot of warlock stacked or something, which are really good for this type of damage, so. So I guess I'll let this guy get it. Set this. Shit. There's definitely too many waves. Hmm. The main thing is, there's really not a whole lot we could even really test. Like, obviously, it would be nice to be able to test the blood thing a little bit, which, like, we could drag the boss over to the blood and test it. But, like, keep in mind, this is the third boss in the raid, in the journal. And this boss on Heroic was really easy. So, I don't know.
Portolans reeking of fish and the sea. Sure, disgusting.
I definitely like 15-ish minutes before next boss. Yeah, yeah. There's no. I swear, if that's Bay's misinfo, I'm gonna fucking scream. Oh. Uh. Sure. Okay. Um. Did I? basically what I'm doing now is the plan, as I mentioned before, was I'm not, a Loon's Chosen is just, it's too boring, man. I don't really want to play it. I played it for the entirety of last raid testing. I don't want to do it again. I was going to test Druid of the Claw. Druid of the Claw is bugged right now, so unlucky. Fuck, which one is... I think it's Zul'jin that my actual Blood DK is on. Yep. So, initially, I was going to swap to Blood DK in like 10 minutes before. The plan was, I said to my guild, let's do one more pull, and then I want like a 15-minute break so I can get Blood DK set up. But then they already started the next boss. But dude, I'm not playing another fucking set of testing on Guardian. Fuck that. So I will. Right. It's good. I reset my Omnium Folio, but there's a way that you can get it in Stormwind, so I'll just do that real fast. There's some random bar in the middle of my screen. What is this? Oh, is that this shit? No, it's not the cooldown manager. What is that? No? Utility cooldowns? How do I hide this? It's not listed anywhere. Why isn't it? How do I snap? I think I snap to elements. I thought that's... Okay. Let's hope that works. Different faction, I guess, so I'll just message my raid leader and he should be able to put that.
No one else will.
Better stats. I'll just put on... pull without me for a second. I'm just setting up Blood DK. Alright, and then... Need... So this one does. And then... Oh no, you know, I want to test this. Right? This is what I want to test. But there's... Um... This is the one I want. Their hands. But... Right, I need to... I need... fucking... Need to rune forge. Um... I don't even know if you'd want to run that as blood. I'm not going to worry about the other stuff right now. I guess I'll just do... By the sound of it, though, if you look at my guild's raid frames right now, and what I'm hearing in comms is they're all just getting, like, chain one-shot by stuff, just like the previous boss. So, apparently Blizzard really, really missed the mark on tuning this time around. Every mechanic is just one-tapping people. It's just not great. And we have one of our DPS playing tank. So it doesn't really sound like it's an issue of, like, oh, because I'm not in, we're struggling. Yeah, so I think literally all I need is I just need to apply Runeforge, and then we're good to go. And... Our Cantina key's bugged on PTR. I'll do old Dalaran into Stormwind into Raid Portal. It works. Oh yeah, all there. Apparently there's some circle soak that's just one-shotting anybody who soaks it.
I got what you need. Keep it real.
Thanks, Space.
Brave of you to venture this far.
You could swap back, by the way, Smashy. What do my stats look like? Okay, I have a... Why do I have so much mastery? It's because of the necklace. But this trinket also has mastery. Alright. Verse Flask, I guess. Which one do you want me to grab, Will? Okay.
I cannot drink water. Too far away. I'm out of range.
My bone shields. Oh, dude. Okay.
I must get closer. I'm out of range.
Dude, why, Blizzard? Why? I just disabled it, man.
Too far away.
Sure.
I must get closer.
Sorry, I'm getting flashbanged by the cooldown manager.
I'm out of range.
Did you take Nama back? Okay. I mean, this definitely seems more approachable than the last boss. Uh, Seems fine. Me? Wait, Iku on Gebo, right?
I must get closer. It is not ready yet. Too far away.
This like kind of fucks frames though.
I must get closer. I'm out of range. I must get closer.
Not me too! You don't want me!
Too far away.
Oh. Dude, this guy fucking pipes.
I'm out of range.
Okay.
I must get closer. Too far away.
I'm gonna void off it.
I'm out of range.
Oh, void operational works. We jump off or You cannot AMS that. Holy. At least, because I void elfed and like my toe touched the fire pool and it didn't do much damage, so it's only the wave that really hurts. Oh, Hearty Feast. It's my perfected guillotine.
I cannot take more of this now. That item is still recharging.
I should also note, by the way, I didn't really draw a lot of attention to this fact, but because Blizzard pushed up the raid testing for this boss by 15 minutes, it goes to show that we weren't really missing anything. Blizzard themselves recognized that the boss was overtuned. Because they honestly, they don't do that very often. Pretty much the only time... Yeah, I'm grabbing Nana. The only time that I've ever seen Blizzard do that is when the boss is, like, genuinely, like, bugged, unplayable. It's actually one of the first times I've seen a boss that is, like, clearly overtuned, that they end early.
Far away. I'm out of range.
Because, like, Tindril test... Well, I mean, Tindril was just really fucking hard, right? But during raid testing, Tindril was, like, borderline impossible because of how hard it was.
Too far away.
But Tindril testing was like that, where everybody was just chain dying instantly. It was definitely, like, way overtuned for anybody to really test. And then we had, Magmarax testing was like that. Magmarax testing, though, they did acknowledge that it was fucked, and then they did another day and basically completely reworked the boss. I will say, I don't know if we're doing something a little bit wrong, because, like, the only way I'm able to lift that is with Void Elf Racial, which I can't imagine that's the way it's supposed to be done. Yeah, but I can't. That's... Yeah, exactly. There's no mushroom anywhere near me. Well, I mean, I already am, so W, but I have to imagine we have to drop the mushroom more central or something. I don't know, but I mean, or just you need a teleport racial, which
I cannot take more of this now. I'm out of range.
yeah, I was kind of wondering if something like that is required, but I don't know.
I cannot use that item yet.
So I've been obviously talking in my guild's Discord. I don't have my comms on, but you can probably pick up context clues of what I've been saying, which is that I've been able to survive that fire wave because of Void Elf Racial. And it works, which is, you know, it's cool, right? I'm glad that it works. It's a cool strat. But while I tested it for science, the reality is that is not, like, Blizzard's never really going to design a mechanic like that where the only way to do it is with a racial like that. Sure.
I'm out of range.
Yeah, I think this seems much better.
I must get closer. I'm out of range.
Do we want to... I think we swap, right? And you can see I was right. That actually worked out quite well. So I was basically saying there has to be some way that we're supposed to do this where both tanks are allowed to jump on the mushroom. And then... This is kind of awkward.
I'm out of range.
Yeah, but I still have Nama stacks.
Too far away.
I wonder if one of us, like, ripped or something.
I must get
It...
closer.
Yeah, our Nama stacks. I guess we should have just delayed that slightly. Or maybe at... Possibly, it could also be that... Do they do the Tank Buster if they're empowered? Yeah. Yeah, like when they get empowered, maybe they don't do their Tank Buster, and then at that point, that lets one of us drop our stacks or something. I do think for now, we could try that, do 2 sets of shards. I mean, we lived up to like 30-something anyway. But yeah, so basically I said in comms before, as you heard, like, this can't be intended, you know, and my raid leader joked, time to bust out the Brewmaster to transcend it, or whatever. But obviously that's not how that's supposed to be. And my co-tank said, what if we do, like, a movement where after we empower Gebo and, like, the things start going out, we basically stack the 2 tank bosses so that we can drop the mushroom in melee, and then both of us can jump. So we tried that, and I mean, that worked perfectly, right? So whenever you see something like that where, like, there's a clear issue, and we try a solution, and the solution seems like, oh yeah, that works flawlessly, that's, like, almost certainly what Blizzard wants you to do. Now, that being said, there is, like, it is entirely possible that... Oh, dude, why did it canceled my cast? Okay, that's enough. It's entirely possible that there'll be a situation where maybe, like, the meta strategy for, like, Race the World First is, like, you stack both bosses or whatever. And then, like, the tank has to teleport it. And there have been cheese strats in the past on certain fights that basically require you to run, like, a specific tank for Transcend, or for, like, or a specific racial, like Drakthir. An example that comes to mind, right, is, what's it called? Gallywix, right? Gallywix, you didn't need to be Drakthir, but a lot of people ran Drakthir, and then if you weren't running Drakthir, then it was, like, what actually, I wasn't Drakthir, because my warrior's a panda, but I had priest that had to, like, leap of faith me back. So there are sometimes mechanics that will require you to do that, but a lot of the ones that I can think of, where it's like, oh yeah, this is, this is like a really janky tank mechanic that requires a specific, like, you know, race or class. Like, even Muggsy, you think, like, you needed spell wording. Yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah, that is 100% on me. I walked into the mushroom. But yeah, that's... Yeah, we can do that well. I'll start rotating back. It's just I did that and immediately faceplanted the mushroom, so unlucky. Just release. But yeah, also, like, all those bosses I mentioned, where it's like, you need a specific tank to do it, those are later bosses. This boss is 4th boss, roughly. So whenever I see something like that, I'm like, alright, there's no shot. Responding to a Discord message. Why? Fucking Blizzard, man. I hate when they just, like... I'm gonna stop using Font of Venomous Rage. There's some... They do this thing where, like, some random, like, auras that you have will sometimes count as casts. And they forget, like, whenever they add a new on-use trinket, they always, like, forget some random shit. And then you'll just have some random, like, proc effect that counts as a cast and interrupts, like, your channel. So, every time I do Font of Venomous Rage, it just gets insta-cancelled by some fucking shit. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay. I didn't think of that. That ate my Reaper's Mark. I'll start backing up. This is awkward. Oh, somebody did it too early. Okay, so shredding shards is absolutely fucking me. I mean, I did live that there, and I can definitely live it more easily if I IBF there immediately. So in that case, I did Vamp Blood AMS. If I just do Vamp Blood IBF, I very easily live that. But also Blood DKOP, right? Like that would... I don't think a Brewmaster could live that without externals, so that's definitely not the way you're supposed to do this. I think for the purposes of raid testing for now, I'll probably still keep doing this strat with my co-tank, where we're basically taking 2 sets of the Tank Buster. I think what's supposed to happen, though, is we swap there, and then at some point after we empower the boss, it no longer
I kind of think more of the top.
I think what if it might be my dancing rune weapon that's breaking Quantum Venomous Rage? So I'm gonna just wait until like my entire burst window's over. Dancing rune weapon will probably be, yeah, it's gone. Maybe? Alright. Okay, I got a full cast off, so, you know, maybe that was right. Fuck, I did it again, man.
Too far away.
I need to always Reaper's Mark, Iku. Because it fizzles when I use it on Gevo. We have time, we can definitely make that work. Oh, so, oh no, somebody stood on it.
I must get closer.
Hmm. Okay, I got this bug. That's really annoying. Oh, nice. Okay. Reloading fixed. Hello with Thomas. Good to see you. Uh, so, so one of the pug players who's in our group is like, they're French and they have a very thick French accent. So they said something in like very thick French about like, oh, I think Frost is better than Arcane. And like I can't do a French accent, right? But it was extremely thick. And I understood what they were saying, but it was definitely like I hadn't heard them talk up until now. So I was a little bit surprised, but then somebody in our guild just yet went, huh? Really loud? Oh, fucking hell, dude. It is definitely jarring, though. Like, I mean, that is one of those things that when you're used to playing on US, you do testing on the PTR, and you get people from Europe, right? And it definitely like, obviously, I didn't say any dumb shit in voice. Like, I'm not even sure which guild he said that, but it definitely caught me off guard for a moment until I'm like, oh right, hugs from Europe. Ah, fucking hell. Yeah, he's the ambassador, he would know. I'm switching off Pontivenomous Rage after this. Fuck this shit, it just keeps canceling. I do think it's probably something related to Dancing Rune Weapon, but, like, I get too many Dancing Rune Weapon procs to, like, every single time I get a proc, see, like, oh, you know, is it active still? Can I cast my Pontivenomous Rage? I don't know if that is true. Fuck, I did it again! Fuck. Okay, I fucking stupid Gebo motherfucker. Ow, ow, ow! Oh my god!
I must get closer.
Alright, let's swap now. Oh, fuck! It was dropped directly underneath us. Take eco, take eco. All the cool people are still alive? Yeah, W. Well, you're playing Elaine's Chosen, right? Okay, this time, yeah! Fuck you, Gebo, you piece of shit. I Reaper's marked the correct target.
Too far away. That item is
Okay.
charging.
Up a full Pontoff. I'm gonna switch talents after this. Cast in the back. Splitting it up now.
Too far away.
Oh no, it would.
I must get closer.
I'll take Nama, but after that, Shredding Shards. Yeah,
I'm out of range.
should be fine. me.
I'm out of weapons. I must get closer.
What?
Too far away. Is he gone?
Okay, perfect. I'll take Eco when she's...
Voices are back. Make them stop. I'm out of weapons.
What the fuck? Okay. So apparently right now, empowering Iku is just not possible. The damage on that is not okay. I do agree we should start empowering another. Apparently somebody may have done something wrong, and that might be why we exploded, so we're testing.
I cannot take more of his time. Is he gone? The voices are back. Make them stop. Too far away.
What happened? Okay. So, my raid leader said everybody spread out. The warlock, I guess, heard the opposite. So, all I heard before we exploded is my co-tank said, "Warlock friend, what are you doing?" And then we immediately blew up. Apparently the warlock just burning rushed across the platform and to stack directly on top of him and caused this to explode. So, W. Gotta love it.
I must get closer.
We aren't... Okay. Okay. So it looks like that time we actually did the mechanic correctly, and we still instantly died. I think. Okay, no, apparently we did it wrong. This mechanic is just very weird. So the way that people are describing it is apparently you get the big ring, you drop the big ring, you're either fire or frost. Apparently, the moment that finishes, you get a smaller circle of your color. And if you collide with somebody of the opposite color, you wipe us. And that's what's happening. But what you're supposed to do is avoid people of your opposite color, but run into a puddle of the opposite color to clear your puddle and clear your circle. It definitely... It's a lot.
I cannot bring more at this time. I'm out of red.
You want to be back there, by the way, Chi. Just further out. Be nuts.
Is he gone? The voices are back. Make them stop. I must get closer.
Was mine too close to the outside, or the outside too close to the center? I don't like this mechanic. This is not good. Especially the fact, whenever they add mechanics like this, where it's RNG as to whether it targets tanks, it is a massive fucking pain in the ass. Just because sometimes tanks need to basically run halfway across the room to clear. Other times they don't have to do anything. The variance is kind of extreme. Looks like another turtle made it to the water. Yeah. I like the idea of this boss. This is so far my least favorite boss in this entire raid, and it's not even close. It's I have not enjoyed it on heroic or mythic so far. I mean, it's kind of a slop council fight. Honestly, Light-Blinded Vanguard is one of the few council bosses I didn't really mind, but it did feel like a lot of the mechanics kind of flowed together pretty well. Here, I don't know. I get what they're going for, but as it stands right now, it feels really clusterfucky. I don't really like the whole, if 3 bosses are stacked, they all take reduced damage. That's just really janky. It just means that there's going to you'll have to figure out the perfect order to stack everything. Like paladins, you often can stack all 3 of them. And sometimes you can't, right? But it's due to the natural mechanics of the fight. It's not like, you're not allowed to, like, they all take 99% reduced damage. No, like the paladin is sitting out in the middle of nowhere doing the cast, so naturally you can't really cleave. But that, when that happens because the mechanics make it very clear. Here it's like there's a very clear pattern that they want you to do it in, but I mean, realistically, this is one of those fights where somebody's going to figure out the exact correct flow for this fight to get it done. But they give you so many choices. And, like, I don't know, some people like these fights, some people like the build-a-boss fights. The reality is, this is the type of fight that, like, Liquid and Echo solve, and then everybody else just copies. And I'm a little bit torn on it because I like the idea of problem solving like this. And obviously, if this was the type of game where I could sit down and make my own strategy for this and, like, have that be viable, like, that would be fun. It's literally what I do for speed leveling, right? I build my own routes, and I try to figure out the best strategies. But in this situation, I know for a fact that whatever I manage to come up with is probably just going to be worse than Liquid and Echo, and that's just what everybody's going to use anyway. So it gives you this sense of, like, why bother? And then if the boss feels bad, unless you do the exact correct developer intended order, that will eventually get found by Liquid or Echo, or worse, right? If we get like a Kurog Grim Totem, where the developer intended strategy is actually not even possible, which I'm pretty sure, I don't know for a fact, right, if that was the case. I'm pretty sure Max said that during the race, it would have been mathematically impossible to do Kurog Grim Totem the intended way. It didn't really matter because, like, nobody actually ever did that. They developed the cheese strat, and that's what literally every single build killed it with, because even though it was fucking miserable to do, it just made the fight easier. But then you have, like, that is the worst possible situation for a Build-A-Boss fight, where the only way to do it is in an extremely janky, annoying way. And I don't know. Obviously, it's too early to tell. Like, we haven't tested every possible combination. So, I can't really say what the best way to do this boss is. We're obviously still testing that out. We're trying different new iterations. Who collided? This is also tricky, where I don't know right now if the tuning is just wrong, or the problem is right now we have like a bunch of pugs, right? And I don't know if the pugs are just not understanding this. I mean, maybe it's not even pugs. Maybe some of our guildies are messing this up. But it definitely sounds like there are some people who don't understand how this mechanic works. And then we're just instantly exploding every single time. And now everybody's discussing, like, can we do this a different way? I will say, at this rate, I'm unless to like the or I guess not tomorrow, unless next boss for Mythic testing is way better, I'm probably gonna skip tomorrow raid testing. The reality is this is how Mythic raid testing usually goes, and the second day especially, like, reminds me of in like Aberrus and Emergisil raid testing I remember I did on Mythic, and it was like a clusterfuck. I've usually skipped Mythic raid testing on most other expansions just because a lot of times it's this. And the reality is, like, even if the mechanic is not overtuned, if you don't literally have your full 20-man raid team, which we don't in this case, right? A lot of people have work and stuff like that. You have to have a lot of pugs, and then at this point, like, it's tough to say. Like, is it some of our people genuinely aren't getting this right, or is it just like we're explaining it properly and there's a pug who doesn't have, enough experience messing up the mechanic? I don't know. Either way, we're basically getting nothing really done here. Because the mechanics generally, like, look exactly the same as on Heroic. There are some slight changes, of course, but the general flow of the fight from Heroic is not any different than I remember it, right? Like, I've seen all this before. It's just the tuning is a little bit off. There's, like, some slight variations in the mechanics. And obviously there's, more people. But overall, this doesn't seem... We did not feed the fish. Who has the fish? Okay. Basically, like, for me, raid testing should do one of two things, right? You should, get more valuable, like, information on the boss. And in this case, we're not really, I think. Or get, like, a general idea of, like, how your class plays. Which, honestly, at this point is the only thing I'm still getting, because, like, I am glad to be on Deathbringer Blood. But Deathbringer Blood, I mean, not much has changed, if we're being honest, right? Like, yeah. I mean, Font of Venomous Rage does, like, so much damage. What I could do, actually, is... I've been meaning to do this. This gives me good info on the fact that, like, Perfected Guillotine, this trinket here, with the 2-set bonus, is really good. Look at this damage. Holy, 5% of my overall. That's a very strong trinket. Now, obviously, Font of Venomous Rage is doing more, but this is a 4-minute trinket, and we're dying right after I use it, right? So it's... I get to use all the upfront damage, and then there'd be 3 more minutes where that thing is doing no damage, and the other stuff would catch up. So it definitely, this seems like a good trinket, but I think it's overperforming on meters because of the situation. But the guillotine is doing really, really, really good damage. And that, especially since you have the 2-set with the weapon on blood, is almost certainly going to be really good. So, like, that's valuable info. That's a good thing from retesting. But that being said, my guild is also going to be doing, like, we have assigned M+ testing groups, which our groups actually just got posted the other day. I don't know when we're going to do that. Probably not this week, but maybe next week. We'll see. And whenever that happens, I am probably going to primarily play Blood DK. At this point, I'll have to talk with my co-tank, but I'm leaning towards... Oh, right, I died. Let's try and hit Quantum Venomous Rage. Do want to try feeding Nama before it swaps? Oh, it already swapped, I think, unless it... Oh, never mind. Just took a while to respawn. You might have done it on, like, the first pull I wasn't there. I guess. Let's see. So apparently, during like the first two pulls where I was swapping to Blood DK, they actually tried feeding Nama, my guild, and they said that it just spawns soak circles that instantly kill you. Apparently, the tuning is not there. From what they're saying, apparently they've been checking other guild streams. The furthest they can see is apparently Instant Dollars is doing what we were doing before. They start with Gebo, the mushroom, then they do this fire and ice thing, and they just basically drop the puddles in the middle of nowhere and just don't interact with it and just see how far they can push it before, I mean, you run out of room. Which, like, is just clearly not how this fight's supposed to be done, so clearly the numbers are wrong. Which is why, like, I have no interest in doing raid testing tomorrow, because raid testing historically, on Mythic raid testing, is a bit of a shit show, but usually that's just because, like, what I said with mechanics, right? But that first boss was clearly overtuned. And this boss, like, obviously, it seems like people are messing up mechanics, right? But this, again, is supposed to be boss number 4. Boss number 4 is not supposed to have, like, a hard pass-fail mechanic like this, which is as complex, right? Like, think Saladar, right? What can instantly kill you on Saladar? The tank letting the boss eat an orb, right, will instantly kill you. Okay, obviously that's like, you know, and even there, it's very hard to let the boss eat an orb. You have to really fuck that up. Then, not, like, failing to do kicks, I forgot we're switching back to Iku, so I lost my reader's mark, whatever. So, like, failing kicks can insta-kill you on Saladar. Chimeras, like the ads reaching the boss, can insta-kill you. Again, a kick going on can insta-kill you effectively. So I guess that kind of goes to show, like, the two main things that on low bosses should be able to kill you is if there's, like, a high prio kick, missing that is something that historically should be able to kill you. Or, like, a tank mechanic. Like, if the tank fucks up their main mechanic, then it makes sense that that would cause a wipe, right? But right now, like, this is like a color mechanic. This is like Lura, Anduin, that type of thing. Type of, like, color matching mechanic, where if one person doesn't do it perfectly, Silken Court, another thing. And, like, notice how all the bosses I'm giving as examples for what this mechanic is like are, like, last or penultimate bosses. Or, like, Anduin, which is basically a penultimate boss. And this is a 4th boss, right? Now, there have been color matching mechanics on earlier bosses before. I'm struggling to think of an example off this. Amalgamation Chamber, kind of. Amalgamation Chamber actually does have a good comparison in this raid in the case of, like, the Twin Sentinels or whatever. But notice how in that one, like, the... What'd you say? Yeah, that was good movement. And then I'd say, I guess, take Nama here, if your stacks have dropped. Looks like they have. I don't know, we're dead, but, you know. Is that what's causing it? I feel like if a pixel of the circle is touching, like they've never made mechanics like that precise, especially for a fourth boss. Like, is that actually what's causing us to explode? Yeah. Like, yeah, I agree. Whistle Commander Savara from Eternal Palace. Kinda. Yeah. I mean, Eternal Palace, yeah, that definitely... Savara was such a weird boss. I don't know... It wasn't as punishing, though. Because, like, so, a good example, right, that I was saying is, in this raid, we have these guys in Tomb Sentinels, where you have, like, the number matching game. And if you fail, the person who fails gets a nasty dot on them. It doesn't, like, insta-wipe the entire raid if you fuck it up. Now, that boss is technically supposed to be number 2 in the raid, which is a little bit earlier, but, like, still, this is still a little bit excessive. And Savara, so I think it's been such a long time, I forget the exact... Yeah, so don't drop it there. That's what I was trying to say earlier, because then you can see it pats through Nama. So you want to drop it, like, over there. That way it's still far from the raid, but the pat is closer to Gebo. So it's been a long time since Savara. I remember vaguely that there was a soak mechanic, because I was playing Windwalker Monk that tier, and I distinctly remember I soloed a soak with Touch of Karma and whatever the fuck it was, Diffuse Magic or something.
I'm out of there.
Yeah, a few people are really struggling to get this mechanic correct. The thing is, though, so two things to keep in mind, right? One, this is, like, the fact that one person messing up applies a debuff to the raid that does massive ticking. Like, the ticking damage is either just way too punishing, like it shouldn't apply to the entire raid, it should just apply a debuff to the people who fuck it up, right? Or the numbers just need to be tuned down. Like, with the current numbers, if one person fucks up their color match, the entire raid is dead. It fucks you. That is way too punishing. That cannot be a thing for a boss this early. Or, like, I don't know. Honestly, it is one or the other, right? The numbers are either too much or they just need to change the mechanic. It could just be that, like, the numbers are too high, because honestly, the first boss we tested, the numbers were way too high. We should not have been taking as much damage as we were. Things were just randomly one-shotting. And then by the sound of it, the other mechanics were also randomly one-shotting. So the issue is, from what we've seen, every other guild that's testing this is running into the same issue, and the only guilds that are making progress are doing the Gebo mechanic, like the jump over the Ring of Fire first, and then just delaying as long as they can without even interacting with any of the other mechanics on this boss. So I was going to say one possibility is that we are doing it wrong, but while technically speaking, we are, like, we're making a mistake, right? It seems that it is so finicky that no other guild has managed to do it right. Unless, like, I'm sure Liquid or Echo, who aren't streaming, have probably gotten farther. But out of all the guilds that at least the people in my guild who have been, like, checking streams have been able to find, nobody else has done that better, right? So the mechanic is just not right. That mechanic is just not good. And then we weren't even testing one of the other options. Like, it's a Build-A-Boss, where you could do one of 3 options. One of the options, according to my guild, they tested, and it just one-shots you. It's not even doable. So, there's definitely something going on there. How did Savara work? Right, yeah. It did have a mark. Yeah, and then there was something you had to do to, like, clear your stacks, right? This was the split I'm thinking of, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so obviously Savara was a weird case where Savara definitely a great example. It's been a hot minute since since BFA, so I couldn't remember exactly how it worked. But I do remember this boss was like significantly harder than both Behemoth and Radiance, which came after. Which honestly, like, there's a reason why this raid broke so many guilds, because a lot of casual Mythic guilds literally couldn't get past the first boss because the two bosses after were easier, which the tuning on that, how do you fuck that up? And then a lot of other guilds just died on Ashvane. My guild at the time died on Ashvane. Probably the hardest first boss ever. Yeah, that actually kind of, yeah, I cannot think of anything else. For sure. So, honestly, great example. But yeah, outside of that outlier, I do not think. Yeah, base is just too high level, you know. I guess they are just giving us an hour 20 on this boss then. But I mean, you can see my guild is just like, there's no point doing more pulls on this. There is a new boss in like a minute or two, and that'll be the last boss for today, so we'll have an hour of that. Huh. Hey, Empress Christie. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, it would really be interesting to think of what the hardest first bosses ever have been. I agree that Savara is, like, not even close to the hardest boss, but I'm thinking of, like, other bosses. Goroth is probably a close second. I think between Savara and Goroth, I think Savara definitely is harder. But Goroth, I think, is like a solid second for hardest first boss ever. But then after that, no other boss like springs to mind as like, oh my god, this was so hard. I remember Talok being not like super hard, but like pretty involved for a first boss. Especially because like, so we think of bosses, right? There's apparently the servers are fucked. They might have fucked something up. Raid testing might be over. I don't know. But like, I mean, Aversion's actually kind of an interesting one where I initially thought Aversion was really, really easy, but we did a few like alt runs, and I actually think Aversion is not hard, right? But a bit more challenging than I gave it credit for. Where I think we like steamrolled Aversion,
But then seeing how this boss actually kind of plays for normal guilds, it's not that easy. Definitely a lot of people can fuck up the tic-tac-toe, which, like, you know, that's kind of on tank, so obviously we didn't really struggle with that too much. But Aversion, at least early on, had a pretty tight damage check. There's like a tight damage check on the ad, there's a decent damage check on, like, the boss itself. At this point in the tier, it's probably, with how much item level we've gotten, I don't think anybody's struggling on him. But I think Aversion is, like, solidly in, like, the average of first boss difficulty. I think it's not, like, a complete pushover. War Within, I really like Plexus Sentinel. I don't know if I would say he's hard, but I think he's also, like, solidly kind of in the middle. And also just a really fun boss. Definitely, out of the first bosses, one of my favorite. Really fun design. Yeah, I think I'd put him somewhere in the middle. Maybe a little bit above average difficulty. Vexy, very easy. Vexy's definitely on the easier end. I liked Vexy as a fight, but it was... I mean, literally, it's just... Once the people, like, in your raid understand how to do the bike mechanic, like, you can't really die. Yeah, apparently they fucked something up, but raid testing is back, maybe? No, we're on Mythic. Yeah, talk to them now. Okay, so Blizzard just fucked something up, but raid testing is still ongoing. But, like, what else? I will say, so for this raid, I'm curious to see how this ends up being. Nexali seems like a pretty interesting boss. My first impressions of the fight is that it would probably be up there with, like, Plexus Sentinel. But I don't know. It definitely seems more involved. Hard to say, though. I mean, way too early to really make any definitive calls. Ulgrax, I don't know. I hated this. It's not a good first boss. But would I say this is, like, easy? It's definitely on the easier end. Is it easier than Vexy? I don't know. Ulgrax is not a hard fight, but there were, like, so many things that people could fuck up. And then if people fucked it up, like, it caused... Yeah, no, it's probably... It's on the easier end for sure. I don't know whether... I'd probably say it's a little bit harder than Vexy, just because Vexy is, like, pretty brain dead. Dragonflight, Naruto is, like, easier, but I think ever so slightly below average easiness. Mostly because I think the intermission phase of Gnarlroot took people a little bit of time to figure out. But definitely, like, harder than Vexy, and I would say Ulgrax. Not like a super hard fight. Probably safe to say. Oh, what else? Kazara. I liked Kazara. Kazara was a good first boss. Kazara, I think, was slightly above average difficulty. Not, like, super hard. But, like, honestly, Kazara, I think, is up there with, like, Plexus Sentinel. Harder than Aversion, I think. Because Kazara got, like, very hectic towards the end, especially earlier on. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Aranog, piss easy. This boss was really easy. I'm trying to think, like, there was very little that could even wipe you on Aranog. Really, the only thing was, do you fail the damage check on the rings, which is, like, not really hard to do. Is this even easier than Vexy? I don't know. It's definitely one of the easier ones. Vigilant Guardian, slightly below average easiness. There were definitely things that could wipe you here. It's definitely, like, more involved than, like, Vexy, Ulgrax, etc. Terragru, fucking meme boss. I mean, this is maybe... I don't know. It's definitely not the easiest first boss ever, but it's... The problem that I have with Terragru is like, back in the day, I wiped on this boss multiple times. And every single time I wiped in Terragru, it was because somebody in the raid took, like, a fucking troll anima power, like, the one that would, like, knock you back, and just fucked over everybody. And then we'd have to, like, stop, tell that person to, like, take off their shitty anima power. And that was, like, the only thing that ever caused problems. But, like, is that difficulty? Is it just because I played with a bunch of people who were, like, giga parsors and would never listen to everybody saying, don't run the troll anima powers that wipe the raid? I don't know. It's definitely easy. It's, was not a hard first boss. What else? Shriekwing. Ooh. I really like Shriekwing. That was Nathria first boss. I think Shriekwing also, I would say, is probably on the harder end. Because Shriekwing, the entire, like, Lantern intermission, I did the Lantern when we progged it, and it was so much fun. I loved having to do that, but it was, like, you had to, like, really figure it out. I don't know if it's, like, it's definitely not, it's not Savara, it's not Goroth. And then, oh, we swap, right? Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's a Terragru meme. I really like Shriekwing. It's so hard to say. I don't know if, like, I think this boss is harder than it is, because, like, the person doing the Lantern on Shriekwing had a much harder job than everybody else, and that was my job. So I remember Shriekwing as being, like, I had way more responsibility than I ever had for a first boss. But, I don't know, am I biased? I think Shriekwing, honestly, though, like, there were some complicated things, like the fucking bouncing circles. You had to, like, definitely, I'm thinking, like, there's no way that anybody could argue compared to, like, Ulgrax or Vexy or something like that. I think it's above average. Even later, like, Gnarl Root, it's gotta be harder than those. I think it's solidly above average difficulty. I mean, it's also just a sick fight, right? Love Shriekwing. Wrathion, I think, is, like, maybe ever so slightly above average difficulty. It wasn't a hard boss, but it was, like, it's a little bit more involved than, like, in Ulgrax of Vexy. There are, like, different things that you need to do. And then, obviously, like we said, Savara, hardest first boss ever. I think that's true. And then you have, like, Champions of Light. Champions of Light, I think, is the easiest first boss ever. Like, I don't even remember half the mechanics in that. The strategy for every single Champions of Light group was just everybody stack and just burn. Like, I never remember interacting with a single mechanic on that fight. It was just such a fucking joke. That, I think, is the easiest first boss ever. And then, like, Talok. Talok's an interesting one. I think now that I've done... Oh, what the fuck? Bashnik is in this? Okay, that's kind of interesting that, like, on... give me a 1. Oh, they're taking reduced damage. Take breath. I think now that I've talked about, like, a lot of bosses that I think are harder than Talok, I think Talok is, like, pretty dead on average. Like, I don't know, is Talok harder than, like, Gnarl Root? Which, what did I say? I think Gnarlroot is, like, slightly below average difficulty. Also, I saw it. I don't know, bro. Lucifron from MC was turbo hard. Yeah. I think Talak was probably harder than, like, Gnarlroot. The elevator phase for Talak was, I mean, very unique. I like Talak as a boss because of that. And I think it was a little bit more involved than Gnarlroot, which... Apparently, people are really struggling with the minigame, the intermission. So they're currently... Wait, not on opposite sides? So we wouldn't want to do, like, that? Yeah, that sounds good. Come over to me. Yeah. I'm heading over to you. I have 3.
I'm out of range.
Some people are struggling with this mechanic. Apparently what happened is a few people instantly bumped into one another. And then they kind of fucked it up. Some more first bosses. Oh. Legion. Yeah, Garathi Worldbreaker was definitely easy. I don't know if this is, like, easier than Vexy, but it's pretty easy. Goroth definitely... I think this is the second hardest first boss ever made. Scorpyron was kind of a joke. Definitely easy. And then... Nythendra... I actually think Nythendra was probably slightly above average. I don't know, like, Legion, I think the tuning on Nythendra was easy, just because Emerald Nightmare in general was not tuned to be hard. But Nythendra was more mechanically involved than, I think, a lot of other first bosses. Like, the fact that you know, you could get mind controlled, right? You had to break out the MCs, right? Definitely not many first bosses that have mechanics like that. I don't think it's on the harder end, but I think it's like around average first boss difficulty, especially like harder than Scorpiron. I would say harder than Garathi Worldbreaker. Oh, thank you, Chi.
Too far away.
Oh no, that is a terrible drop. What the fuck?
I'm out of range.
Yeah, just if that happens, make sure you're on the edge. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. This is so fucked. Oh fuck. Okay.
Sealed in Ulatek's name.
Almost. I just realized the stream title still says Bear POV. Yeah, whatever. Who gives a shit? I don't think anybody's gonna join and be like, "What? It should bear. There's no bear." Like, I think most people understand, you know, PTR testing, right? Here, I'll update it. I'll do bear and blood POV. Oh. Here we go. Accurate. So glad I'm in the testing group with Baze. Yeah. Yeah?
I'm out of range.
Hey, we did it.
I must get closer.
Well, this continues to be one of my favorite bosses in the raid. I did really enjoy heroic raid testing. It is unfortunate that the last two bosses have been a clusterfuck, though admittedly, Tortolan Explorers was my least favorite heroic testing boss as well. And Vashnik was clearly not working correctly, and was also, I think, my second least favorite on heroic. Though, I liked it a lot more. But this was one of my favorite bosses on heroic testing, and honestly, this seems... I like it so far. Seems cool on Mythic as well. Might end up being one of my favorite second bosses ever. For us, maybe. That is true. I forgot about that.
I must get closer.
I probably should have run further. Well, realistically speaking, people should have not stood on top of the tank. Right. But the moment I saw Melee just kind of zipping all over the place, I should have just run. Just to keep myself alive. Not that I think it mattered. A bunch of other people died to that too. You just kick him out of the raid. Yeah, and then you did it 3 times. Some of her TPS players are being demons right now. Can't tell if there's a little swirly underneath that or not. I don't think there is. Don't stand on star. Give me some space. Okay, we got lucky. Holy fuck. Newman. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it's like... I'm running to the other side. Some dragon. Oh, why?
I'm out of range.
Fucking terrorist. Alright, well...
Too far away.
Big move. Yeah, yeah. I mean, somebody was a terrorist and, like, gatewayed through 2 people in intermission.
I must get closer.
Sealed in Ulatek's name.
Do I have more coffee? Oh, I do have more coffee. Let's go. It's probably cold. Cold coffee is better than no coffee.
I'm out of range.
Stand on star.
I'm out of range.
I have a 1 over here for a 3. I see a 3 in the middle. I think that's a demon hunter? I can't really tell. Okay, yeah. You look like a demon hunter. It's a warlock. What the fuck?
I'm out of range.
I will say this mechanic, you know, no shade, right? But it's definitely the pugs are not getting this. Every single time I see like people with stray numbers left, it's one of the pugs. Yes. Yeah, a few people are just like kind of running around. Like I was chasing down a 3 and they just ran to the opposite side. Yeah. Yeah, Keith 10. I don't know if you didn't pan your camera back, Houston. I was literally chasing you, and you just kept running away from me. Yeah, no, Ethan, what I'm saying is I had a 3, and I was right behind you. And you kept running the opposite direction. There was a 3. It was on me. Is he in voice? I don't know. To check if my mic is actually working. Here. Okay, first, yeah, no. My mic is working in like regular stream at least.
I must get closer.
Everybody get in the soak. Get in the soak. In the corner.
I'm out of range. I must get closer.
Get back there. Everybody on red. No, we do a loose, very loose spread, because it does work like the moving puddles. Spread, spread, spread. We didn't spread. Demon Hunter, Corvus. I think it was Wheeze who pointed out they do spread like rock puddles, so you don't want to pixel stack. You want to keep a very loose spread in the corner. Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, so my mic is definitely working in Discord, so I don't know. One of the warlocks, the pug warlocks, was just repeatedly confused, saying there was nobody for me to match with last poll, and I said like multiple times that I was trying to match with him. I don't know if he didn't hear me or what. How much is the Scissorak trinket doing? Ravage. Not bad, honestly. That's very close to perfected guillotine. and run over to Star. Whoever that is. Yeah.
I must get closer.
Yeah. I should be able to get. Fred. Oh! Phase! No, fuck off, dude. Don't eat it. Dude. Back here. Oh god, Baze. For us.
That item is
Take blood.
I must get closer. Too far away. I'm out of range. I must get closer.
Oh my god.
Too far away.
Okay. Baze. The fucking audacity, Baze, to stand between two circles and then say, oh, they tried to assassinate me. You didn't make any fucking effort to move! Yes, it does. The threes get left over.
I cannot drink more of this contaminating I'm out of range. I must get closer. Too far away. I must get closer.
Corvus. us. Yeah. I believe so.
Sealed in Ulatek's name.
Like the stompy ones? Yeah. Makes sense. Apparently some of the things didn't get stomped, and that's what killed us. Okay, that pull, the Scissorak Trinket did very low. I don't know, I kind of want to go back to trying Font of Venomous Rage. I definitely think this Trinket is really good. Reminds me a lot of Beacon.
The temple must
I cannot drink more at this time.
I don't know why, like, I started my opener there and my brain just, like, froze. And I was like, wait. Like, I think for a moment there, I thought I was playing Guardian Druid. I don't really know why. It took me a second to realize this is not Guardian Druid.
I must get closer.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, there we go. That is definitely the way we should have cleared.
I'm out of range. I must get closer.
Base, watch. That happens, I'll usually get it with AMS. Where are we going with this? Pick a spot.
I'm out of range. Too far away. I cannot use that item yet.
No, 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 no! Oh, man! Yeah, make sure... Droplets aside, make sure you're paying attention to tanks, because, like, I can't Death Strike there, and I'm taking a lot of ticking damage, so...
Weird looking bear. Hey, I have updated the title, sir. I have updated the title to say Bear and Blood.
But yeah, I started raid testing on bear, and then my co-tank and I swapped. So I'm playing blood for the last boss. I'm not gonna like update my chat cover. It's too much effort.
Here, actually, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. You want me to update my chat cover? I actually could do that, I think. There you go.
There you go. It's actually easier to do than I realized. How much time do we have left? Oh, only 10 minutes left in testing. I feel like, I mean, we've seen every mechanic so far. So, you know. I like this boss. It's just very punishing if, like, one thing goes wrong. But, like, that's kind of just Mythic in general. And we do have a lot of pugs who are not doing it super well. Also, like, tuning has just kind of been all over the place. I'm out of range of breath. Yeah, it shouldn't matter. Run to me, person. Who is that? Baze? Baze, get over here. Mr. Dragon, get over here.
Too far away.
Yeah, it won't matter. Take the puddle there. You don't have to go all the way. It's fine. Watch, watch, watch. Don't.
I cannot use that item yet. Too far away. I'm out of range.
Awkward. Yeah, I didn't make it into the corner in time. It's neat to see the difference of how the DK is now and what yours looks like on MOP. Yeah. it's a very different playstyle. Honestly, I really enjoy Kata and Mop Blood DK. Well, Kata through WoD Blood DK. In my opinion, Blood DK peaked in WoD. But yeah, it plays very differently now. I have no idea. Deathstrike OP. But yeah, it's kind of interesting where, like, this is probably one of my favorite iterations of Blood in a while. I think I liked War Within Blood a little bit more, but a lot of tanks took, like, a big hit going into Midnight. Blood DK, I think, feels a little bit worse now compared to War Within, but not by much. Whereas a lot of the other tanks, with the exception of Bear, I think, Bear also feels pretty good at the moment. But they don't really know what the fuck they're doing with Bear tuning. But outside of that, the general design of Bear feels pretty good, and Bear and Blood feel okay compared to most of the other tanks, which, in my opinion, just do not feel good right now. I've heard that Prop Heli feels good after the recent changes. I haven't tested it, so I can't say, but... It's using a string bit.
I'm out of range.
Watch base, not moving. Second, oh, why did that drop there?
I must get closer. It is not ready. Too far away.
Come on. Take a...
I must get closer. I'm out of range. Too far away.
It's awkward. I mean, we definitely didn't play that correctly, so... You know, it's, I think we saw most of the mechanics, though. It's very similar to Heroic, anyway. There's only some minor Mythic changes. That's it for raid testing. I will... Let me, I'll read your messages in a second. I'm waiting to see if there's anything else that my raid leader was gonna say before I hop out of our Discord. It looks like, yeah, we're done for today. Now I'll check with my raid leader. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be doing raid testing tomorrow because so tomorrow, let me double check. There is, where's the raid testing schedule? Oh, here we are. Raid testing schedule. It is Scissorak, Twin Fangs, and Zul'jin tomorrow. And while that boss was okay, like the second boss there, like that's going to be the easiest one for testing. The first boss isn't available for testing. Like, first boss would be the only one that I might test, but they canceled the first boss raid testing. So now it's basically, it is only tomorrow. It is Scissorak, this guy, Twin Fangs, Zul'jin. It's the last few. So basically, boss 5, 6, 7. Haha. And, like, we didn't even... Like, this fight was overtuned on Heroic. And we didn't even get far. Cool boss. I like the design. It was just very hard. There's zero chance. We're probably going to chain die P1 on Mythic, so there's no point doing this. Twin Fangs, I don't know what the Mythic mechanics on here are. Yeah, okay. Looks like, Tainted Blood... By the looks of it, I think it's just everything does, obviously, more damage, but then you have to clear at different points. I'm sure it'll be interesting. I liked this boss on Heroic, but we saw the entire thing. One of the reasons I was interested in seeing the Lost Explorers on Mythic today, obviously it ended up being really overtuned, is because, like, the Lost Explorers was a little bit janky when we did it last week, and we didn't get to see the full thing. We didn't end up killing it. So I wanted to see a little bit more of it, and we definitely got a little bit more experience, but the tuning on this was not okay, so we didn't really see much. Vashnik also, on Heroic, we killed it in like 3 pulls or something. It was... we had to stop ourselves from killing it first pull. It was really undertuned on Heroic, but then the way that it worked on Mythic was just like the complete opposite direction. It was vastly overtuned, to the point where they even ended testing early. It was impossible to really see. So, these were the only bosses I really wanted to see. Scissorak I liked on Heroic, but, I don't know. I don't really think there's any merit to testing these bosses on Mythic, at least, like, for me, right? Obviously, the top guilds are going to test it, like, the literal, like, top 10 world guilds, and I'm sure a bunch of other people as well. And I'll, like, if there is anything interesting, I'll just be able to watch footage of it. But usually the reason I like to do testing is to get an idea of it myself. And I don't really think that that will be needed. So I have a lot of stuff that I need to do this week anyway. And raid testing, I mean, it's time consuming, right? Because it is 3 hours and I need to set aside time for it. So I don't know. Probably not going to. But we'll see. I think also my guild is going to be doing the whole raid on normal. So there's normal raid testing the entire weekend. So they open up the raid. You could go whenever. And we've organized a normal run for Sunday. So that'll stream. And then you'll get to see all of the bosses. Minus Splitek. They never let you test the last one. But that should be fun. But yeah, I think that's it. I'm just checking. I've gotten pings on my Discord. Why did I get pings? Okay, would you say, DS Killer? You've been watching a lot of retail DK stuff, and a lot of the other tanks for when MOP is over. You're going to see how far you can go with it. Fight looks cool. Can't wait to see it when it comes out. Yeah, that is maybe one of my favorite fights so far. It's an early boss. It's only boss 2. But for a second boss, I really like that fight. I think it's really nice. And yet, tanking as a whole right now, it's definitely in a much worse position in Midnight than it was, frankly, in the last 2 expansions. It's yeah, it's a bit rough at the moment. Blizzard has kind of shit the bed there. And definitely compared to Mop, right? Like, tanking and Mop, obviously, you are a god. And tanking right now in Midnight is basically you are extremely fragile and survivability is a major concern, which is... I don't know. Within reason, I think that can be okay, but right now it feels way too punishing. It's not really fun, and the issue that I run into is certain tanks are just, like, playable technically, but way, 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 way harder to play. Like, Brewmaster in raids right now it's way too squishy. It just can't live. It's, obviously it can. People have cleared the raid with Brew, but it is so much squishier than every other tank. If you do something ever so slightly wrong, you're just dead. You keep hearing about it. Is it really that bad? You know that people tend to yap a lot? I don't know what the yapping has to do with it, but it's pretty bad, yeah. As somebody who has main tank nonstop for the last... God, I mean, I've been maining tanks since WoD, like original WoD. It's not the worst that tanking has ever felt. The worst that tanking has ever felt was BFA. And tanking at Shadowlands was also not amazing. Wasn't great. But in some ways, tanking is, like, better now than it was in, like, Shadowlands, but in other ways it has gotten worse. The biggest issue, I think, is compared to what we had before. Tanking in War Within, honestly, was probably the best that tanks have ever felt in a very long time. They did a really good job, which is why it's just so frustrating. This is, classic modern Blizzard design. They get something right, and then they just fuck it up for no reason. So they just decided that, hey, we've already, like, everybody likes current tank balance. We're just going to obliterate all of the design of these classes to quote-unquote simplify them, and then they just made the game worse. So that's I think, why a lot of people are especially frustrated about it. Is it literally the worst that tanks have ever felt? No. But there's a lot of whiplash going from what I consider to be one of the best periods of tanking in War Within to what we have now, which is, it's bad. It's bad. And I think it's a few tanks in particular feel really bad. Like, right now, like I said before, Blood DK and Bear, I think, feel pretty good, which is why I really have not been playing that many of my tank alts. Vengeance Demon Hunter, I think, feels really bad right now. I don't like it how it plays. I did not really like Prop Paladin in Season 1. It's getting a mini rework this patch. I've heard it's a lot better. I haven't tested it myself. My co-tank said he likes it, so maybe that one's better. Prop Warrior was, like, good. It was run in the Race to the World first in Season 1, but it's very boring. It's literally a 2-button tank, which is, I mean, for me, not very fun. I don't enjoy that. And I have... Prot Warrior is one of those tanks where there have been periods of time in which Prot Warrior is very fun, and I've really enjoyed it, so it's a bit of a bummer seeing that it is so dumbed down. That being said, they are heavily nerfing the 2-button builds in this patch, and they're also buffing some of the builds that I usually like to play. I haven't really tested it a lot, and I think the general consensus from, like, at least my co-tank and I, and then other tanks who I've talked to, is that Prot Warrior won't be bad, but it just, like, nothing about it seems, like, really particularly special going into the new season. So the only way that I see it being brought to Race to the World first, or, like, in the meta, is if DPS Warrior is really bad, which is what happened this past season. Like, Prot Warrior was run in Race to the World first for Midnight Season 1, but from what I'm aware of, that had a lot more to do with DPS Warrior not being good. So it's, like, it did more damage than Blood DK, and on the fights where you needed Blood DK, people sometimes ran that with the DPS Warrior, but then, like, a lot of times if you needed as much damage as possible, like on Lura, because it obviously was a very difficult boss, they ran Prot Warrior Bear to get as much damage as possible, and then that way they got Battle Shout without having to bring a DPS Warrior, but there were, like, it kind of went back and forth between Blood DK Bear, Prot Warrior Bear, Blood DK, Prot Warrior. There were, like, those 3 tanks were kind of all mixed and matched this past year, and the main thing bringing Prot Warrior is that it does do decent damage. It is very tanky, right, which is one of the main upsides to it, but it's very boring. And I think that is definitely the main downside to it. But now, most guilds on farm, and most non-race to world first guilds are running Blood DK Bear and not the Prot Warrior, because outside of the race to world first context, especially after post race to world first tuning, DPS Warrior is not bad anymore, and Prot Warrior, while I think still ahead of Blood DK, is not by enough to argue that is mandatory by any means. Whereas Blood, on a lot of fights, having extra grips makes it significantly easier. And Blood is just incredibly tanky, right? So there's that. Their grips in this next raid look like they're going to be very important for a lot of bosses, so I would be very surprised if Blood DK was not meta going into this next raid. It's not impossible that it's not, but we could have a situation also where, on the fights where Blood DK is needed, they run Blood, and then on the other ones for Race to World First, they don't, which then would kind of mean that for the vast majority of guilds, you just want Blood all the time. TBD. And then, based on what I'm seeing so far, it's hard to say what the second tank will be. I think Blood is kind of a lock-in. And right now, it seems like Guardian Druid again, and then now Prot Paladin are going to be the two optimal picks. And we might see a situation kind of like Midnight Season 1, where within those three tanks, depending on what the best combo is, let's say you need, I don't know what the damage will end up being, but let's say Blood DK is the lowest damage of the three. Then if there's a boss that's really hard but doesn't require grips, good example that I can think of is the Twin Fangs and Scissorak don't have any grips necessary. So you might see a situation where Prot Warrior, Prot Paladin is played on those fights or something like that. But then again, Blood DK also does give you AMZ, so it's not like grips are the only things that matter, and there is a lot of burst raid-wide magic damage, so if the damage difference isn't that much, if the damage difference isn't that much, and if DPS Warrior is good enough to justify playing, then you could very easily make the case for you just always run Blood DK to get the extra AMZ, and Blood is just done really good, so I could definitely see that. I think that I would be surprised. The problem with tank damage tuning is, unless there is an extreme outlier, it's hard to say. Going into this season, everybody knew that Bear was grossly overtuned. That was not a secret at all. Anybody who was paying any sort of attention knew that Bear was doing so much more damage than everybody else. But Prot Warrior being the second was something that not everybody expected, because everybody was so hyper-focused on Bear that I didn't realize Prot Warrior did reasonable damage. But then again, it wasn't by enough. But it wasn't by enough that with the ability to drop DPS Warrior, that made or broke it. In this case, I haven't heard of any massive outlier. I've heard that Prot Paladin is doing a ton of damage on AoE, so Prot Paladin might end up being really good for M+, but that doesn't always translate into raid. It could, if there's ad heavy fights, that might actually be a major point in Prot Paladin's favor, and I already think Prot Paladin is looking good in other areas as well, so who knows? But I haven't heard anything else extreme. Going into Mana Forge Omega, right? Pretty much every single person who I spoke to predicted Brewmaster Prot Warrior, and the only question on everybody's mind was, are you going to need a Blood DK for for Dementius? And the answer ended up being yes, but everybody knew that both Brew and Prot Warrior were so much further ahead than all the other tanks on damage by a mile, and then the tuning didn't bring them down, and then of course, it ended up being the case that that's just what you played. So it was pretty easily predictable, but outside of, I think, Blood just being generally all around pretty good at everything, and Prot Paladin looking like the rework makes it a little bit strong, I don't know if there's any obvious choice. I think if you, put a gun to my head, I'd say Blood DK Prot Paladin is probably the most likely combo, but Bear could also fit in there. Warrior's not impossible. The only thing I will say is, unless there is further tuning, I would be very, very surprised if either Brewmaster or Vengeance Demon Hunter were played. Could happen, and my Kotank says apparently Vengeance is doing good single target. Maybe. But like, again, I don't think it's by that significant amount. In fact, actually, I'll ask my co-tank. I'll type in tank chat. Do you have testing logs for BDH? Curious to see how far ahead. It's like, I have not heard many people talk about Vengeance DH. I think most people just assume it's not going to be great. My co-tank, I know, is friends with a really good, like, Vengeance Demon Hunter one-trick who, like, always plays that. And I'm assuming the reason he's saying that is because that person probably did some raid testing and did, like, really good damage, and maybe, like, Sims are showing Vengeance as, like, ahead. But I also recall that he said pretty much the same thing early on in raid testing for, like, Void Spire and stuff like that. And Vengeance, Annihilator Vengeance was doing really high tank damage, but then eventually they finished doing tuning. Like, Guardian Druid had so many things that was, like, really, really, really buggy, and then Blizzard fixed all those bugs, and Guardian Druid shot up by, like, it almost doubled its damage. It's Guardian Druid's 4-piece right now is one of the highest damage 4-pieces, like, in a long time. It's, I believe, like, 14% increase. It might be a little bit lower because they have... When the tier started, it was 14%. It might be lower after the tuning changes over the course of the patch. But Guardian Druid had one of the strongest 4-pieces. And during raid testing, before the season started, Guardian Druid's 4-piece was bugged, and they were losing damage from it. It's supposed to double the damage of their, like, Ravage or Raise. And during testing, it was actually consuming your Ravage without doing any damage. So it was basically eating your Rage without proccing. So Guardian Druid went from having a negative damage like modifier from their 4-piece to one of the largest. So once they got fixed, they shot up way ahead. So that's why it's like testing damage tuning is not really that reliable. I don't put that much stock into that. The thing about Guardian and why kind of everybody who was paying attention knew it was going to be so good this tier is because I had been doing my testing on Guardian. I was well aware that there were multiple bugs heavily nerfing Guardian's damage, and I was still keeping up with everybody else. So I had been saying to my guild leader and my co-tank, like, if these bugs get fixed, my damage literally doubles. And I predicted this. I said, I'm pretty sure Blizzard's only going to look at the testing. They're only going to look at that data. They're not going to actually realize that half of the shit that they implemented for Guardian is bugged, and then they're going to fix all the bugs, make their tuning based on the testing data, and then they're not going to account for the fact that Guardian has been doing, like, half the damage it's supposed to. And that is exactly what happened. And then they nerfed Guardian by 33%, and it was still doing, like, significantly more damage than every other tank. They nerfed it again, it's still doing significantly more damage than every tank. Yeah, so, they fucked up a little bit there. But, you know, is what it is. Thanks for the explanation. You think you definitely got a lot to look up. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm yapping here about, like, end game rating stuff. Another thing to keep in mind, I don't do M+ as much, so I'm not going to try and give you a big spiel there. But M+ and raid tuning is usually very different. It's always different, I should say that. It is always very different. Sometimes it just ends up being the case that the meta tank for raid is the same for dungeons. Like, a good example is right now, Bear is just kind of the meta tank for everything. Bear is by far the best tank for dungeons, and it is one of the best tanks for raid. Like, pretty much everybody runs it. Like I said, though, it's like Bear, Prot Warrior, Blood are all, like, equal. You want, like, a combination of them, but most people play Bear. And in this case, like, it is really good, but you also run different builds for Bear, depending on M+ and rating, so there is something to consider there. And then another good example is at the start of this tier, Brewmaster was the best build for, or the best tank for M+. But Brewmaster is really bad in raids. They got severely fucked over going into this expansion, and the only things that Brewmaster got are tools that heavily benefit it in dungeons and basically do nothing in a raiding environment. So that is one example of, like, a tank can be really good in one area and really bad in another. And actually, another example, Blood DK. Blood DK, very, very, very good in raids. Honestly, that's kind of always been the case. I cannot think of a time where Blood DK has been bad in raids. It just works really well for that. Blood DK right now is definitely very weak in M+. But that has kind of always been Blood DK's issue. With the exception of, I know, like, you might say, because you said, like, you played Mop, right? Blood DK in dungeons is pretty strong. in like MOP, well, really in Kata through WoD, because back in the day when I did WoD challenge modes, I played Blood DK for those. Obviously, Mass Grip is just an incredibly powerful tool. There are more grouping tools in the game now, so like Mass Grip isn't as obscenely broken for dungeon runs as it used to be. It's still good, and the reality of like back in the day for challenge mode runs is you would not be able to die as a tank, right? Like survivability was never really a concern. You might be squishy, right? So like a Brewmaster in MOP might have an easier time doing gigantic pulls and just being unkillable, whereas a Blood DK will have to be like much more mindful of their death strike timings to not die. But you can basically live any amount of pull if you play properly because of, what is it, like Vengeance? Vengeance and then later, I forget what they called it, like Resolution? Whatever the fuck they renamed the Vengeance 2 in WoD before they removed it entirely. You can walk through MOP at the moment as a Blood DK. Yeah. And, like, so I haven't played MOP Classic since launch, but I played a good bit of MOP Classic when it came out, and I played Brewmaster. And yeah, Brewmaster was absolutely disgusting in dungeons, for sure. And then back in original MOP, way back in the day in original MOP, I played Blood. And then I played that in MOP a little bit, and mostly in WoD. I mained Blood throughout all of WoD. And at that period of time, Blood is basically unkillable in dungeons if you know what to do. But tank survivability is a much more important factor nowadays than it is in like older dungeons. Especially because the thing with M+ is it scales infinitely. So in challenge modes, right, it's a fixed difficulty. The mobs will always do the same amount of damage, right? So once you know how to do the biggest possible pull on a challenge mode, the only trick is basically doing more damage, doing it faster, etc. And it becomes a lot easier if you know the exact timings and like what you can do to live. But because Mythic Plus is basically infinite scaling, there is going to reach a point where for reactive tanks like Blood DK, you will not be able to death strike fast enough because you will just get like one shot before you have a chance to death strike. And there's only so much upfront mitigation you can do. There will just reach a point where you are just dead. And tanks like Guardian Druid, right, which can stack a bunch of Iron Fur, have like a bunch of DRs, and more powerful like overtime self-healing, Brewmaster has Stagger, right? So they get way more mitigation out of that. They have a lot of like little absorb shields that they can put up and a lot of self-healing with Vital Flame right now. So they have a lot of consistent healing, not burst healing, and they have a lot of DR. Blood DK does not have a lot of DR. Blood DK just has ridiculous reactive burst self-healing. But if you get one shot, then you have Purgatory once, and then if you get one shot again, you're just dead. And at a certain point for Blood, there's not a lot that you can do to mitigate that, because you only really have, like, IBF and Vamp Blood, and, like, Vamp Blood will only do so much. Vamp Blood, relatively speaking, is a fairly weak defensive. It gives you a little bit more wiggle room just because Death Strike as a defensive tool is so powerful that basically Blood DK has weaker defensives because their, like, core mitigation is so strong, but in a situation like M+, that won't get you very far. So Blood is kind of a funny case, where if you do, like, lower keys as Blood, it is so fucking easy, because then nothing can kill you. If you're at a point in time where you have ample opportunity to press Death Strike before anything kills you, then you can't die. But then as you go up and up and up, Blood DK just, like, gets exponentially more challenging until the point where it falls off. So when I said Blood is bad for dungeons, I should clarify that and say if you are trying to push the highest level content in M+, Blood is not good for that. But, like in my situation, right, I do M+ farming for gear, and whenever I'm doing, like, dungeon runs for my weekly runs, it's chill as hell on Blood. I can pull everything and I can't die, right? But if I wanted to push really high, that would be a bit of a struggle. So, worth noting. Also, okay, yeah. So, I asked my co-tank, he responded, he said, apparently he heard Now talking about it. Now was saying, Now like a tank for Method, if you don't know, that apparently Vengeance currently is simming #1 single target, but he also was talking to his friend, who I mentioned he knows a friend who's like a Vengeance one trick, and they were saying the same thing, and he said he will ask his friend to see their testing logs, Now, that'll take a while, so like I'll end stream here, but I'll post to my Discord server if he provides the logs with more information, because I'd be curious to hear. So more or less blood for raid, bear for M+ right now. Yeah, pretty much. Bear for everything. Bear is good for raid and M+. Going into next patch, if you want, honestly, if you want the safest pick as a tank that will almost certainly be good for everything, is bear. There's, like, I don't know if bear is going to be the best raid tank. I don't know if bear is going to be the best M+ tank, but it will be one of the best. Like, there is really no situation where bear isn't in the top 3 for either raid. It might be, like, the second best M+ tank and the third best raid tank, but if you average that out, it's still a good tank, right? Whereas, like, Brewmaster right now is, like, the second best M+ tank and, like, the 5th best raid tank. It's not in a great spot. Maybe you could argue it's 4th. Hard to say. But it ends up not being easy to play. And, like, honestly, Blood DK, the thing with M+ tanking is, like, right now, Blood is, like, I would say tied for the best raid tank right now. It might be the best raid tank in the next patch. But in M+, like, right now, it's kind of like, it's Bear as the best, then Monk is the second best, and then, like, I don't know, Prot Warrior third? But after Monk, there's, like, a massive drop-off. And then I would say all of the other tanks are kind of close. I think Prot Warrior might be slightly ahead, like, in a bit of a lead for third. But the last I checked, at least at this exact moment in time, Blood, Vengeance, and Prot Paladin were all, like, fairly close. I don't know which one is technically speaking ahead of the other, but they were, like, the gap between them and the top 2, and between, like, Bear and Monk right now, is pretty sizable. And while the build that Bear is currently running that makes it so broken in M+ is getting nerfed, Bear, like, that build is getting nerfed, but Bear is getting a lot of buffs in other areas, and even before that build was, like, the best thing ever, Bear was still, like, very solidly the second best M+ tank behind Monk. It's just when that build took off, Bear, like, massively overshot Monk. So, considering Monk is basically getting fuck all this upcoming patch, and Bear is getting a lot of cool new stuff, it might end up falling into second place. And maybe it falls into third place if Prot Paladin ends up being as broken as everybody says, but I can't really imagine a world where the current just general design of Guardian does not put it ahead of Vengeance Warrior and Blood DK for M+. And then similarly, I've been using Bear for raid testing, and today my co-tank mostly played Bear, and we've both been having a perfectly fine time with it. It's good. Does good damage. It survives. Like, yeah. So I think, and similarly, Blood is, like, always a safe pick, because the thing to keep in mind with Blood DK is, even in the situations where Blood might not be the number 1 tank across the board, there are a lot of bosses where you need to have a Blood. So there will be fights where a lot of guilds will specifically recruit people who can play Blood DK, and at the high end, right, it's always expected that you can play Blood. Like, my co-tank and I usually, like, we divide up the tanks. So, like, this, going into next tier, I think Prot Paladin looks good, but my co-tank really likes Prot Paladin, and I don't hate it, but it's not historically been a tank that I play a lot. So he's probably going to cover Prot Paladin. I'm probably going to cover, if Monk is needed, I guess I'll play Monk, but I don't think it is. I've historically been a Monk player. It's not good, this expansion. And I'm probably going to focus more on, like, Bear and Prot Warrior, since I think they have a chance. And both of us are covering Blood DK, because a lot of times there's a double Blood DK fight. So this tier, the current tier, Voidspire, Veilgore, and Ezrak, was a triple Blood DK boss. You had both of your tanks play Blood, and then you had a DPS DK swap specs to Blood. It's because of grips. Because when bosses are designed like that, when there is a boss where grips are basically mandatory, and like in this case, so on farm, we have now started playing, on most splits, we only do 2 Blood DKs, and we've even killed this now with only 1 Blood DK. That being said, we are, like, way overgeared at this point. We're in, like, full endgame Mythic Bis doing farm runs, at that point, we can just kill the orbs and heal through the damage, and it's not a problem. But on Prog, when you're undergeared, if there is a fight that can be completely cheesed by grips, then Blood DK is just kind of mandatory for most guilds. Because the ability to just bring one spec and have it break the mechanic versus, like, just doing more damage and healing, it's so much easier to have somebody play Blood than to have everybody just magically do, 10% more damage and healing, right? Like, one thing is much easier to achieve than the other. So Blood DK tends to be way more popular than the numbers, like the meta would reflect, just because of that. Because there's a lot of people who aren't going to want to play multiple tanks. Like, I played 4 tanks on Prog this tier. A lot of people aren't going to do that. They're going to want to just play one character. And if you have to pick one character, then there are certain fights where you kind of need Blood DK. So as long as Blood DK isn't, like, completely terrible on the other bosses, or, like, you need something on another boss, then it's good. And this is not an uncommon thing, right? Lura, the final boss of the raid, is borderline mandatory. It's been nerfed now, but it's borderline mandatory to have a Blood to handle the crystals in P1. At this point, with the easier version of the boss, you don't need it. And the world first kill, Liquid, did not run Blood, but they also did some crazy strategy that was, like, really complicated. And honestly, it's probably one of the reasons they won the race, because Echo ran Blood. And the vast majority of guilds, mine included, ran Blood. And it just makes the fight so much easier. So it's another example of, like, Blood is kind of mandatory. And then going back to previous tiers, War Within. Final boss, Dementius, one of the hardest bosses ever. Blood DK was mandatory for this. I think literally mandatory. On some later farm kills, my guild ran no Blood DK and just ran a lot of DPS DKs, but grips were mandatory on this fight, 100% mandatory. If you didn't have Blood, you needed multiple DPS DKs. Most people ran Blood. So another really hard fight where Blood was completely hard required. And I said earlier, right, in this tier, Brewmaster Monk and Prot Warrior were doing significantly more damage than everybody else. And yet, they still, on Race to World First, ran Blood because it was just kind of mandatory to deal with that boss. You don't really count the big 3-4 guilds just because they can... obviously. So they managed to do it without grip, but they managed to do lure without grip. Even the Race to World First guilds ran grip for Dementius. It was just too important. There was no real example. Undermine was one of the... There's 2 raids in recent history that I can think of where grip was not mandatory. Undermine is one of them. This was pretty firmly a Prot Pally Prot Warrior tier, though it did help to have on sticks. And then Nurubar Palace, Brood Twister Ovanax was another double Blood DK. You needed to have 2 Bloods. Even Race to World First, they ran 2 Bloods. And, like, going back, Amir Drasul, this was... Blood DK was just meta. It was just really strong. There were fights where grip was good, but... like, for Rock, I'm trying to think, like, technically speaking, for Rock, grip, I guess, was kind of mandatory, but everybody played Blood this tier because it was one of the people that could use the legendary weapon. It was just very overtuned. Blood was just very, very, very strong this tier, so it was just one of the best tanks. Aberrus is the other tier I mentioned in recent history where there was no great example of a grip boss tier. You didn't really need it. That being said, Blood DK was very good at certain fights, like cheesing Zaskarn. There was a strat that eventually got hotfixed where you would run, like, 2 Blood DKs and drag the boss, like, into the fire that was supposed to be, like, the Hardened Rage, and you could just live through the Hardened Rage with using Blood DKs. So even then, there were situations where Blood could cheese it. Blood was... I can't remember if Blood was literally meta. It might have been, like, the 3rd best tank, but there were a lot of fights. I know Broodkeeper Diurna, Race to World First, and every guild ran Blood for this. This actually was... Mass grips helped in this fight, but the real ticket here is you could AMS one of the really nasty tank debuffs. That's another thing that, like, sometimes AMS being able to negate magic effects is, like, a really critical thing. There are other tanks that can do this, though, like Prot Pally can bubble this. Other tanks can usually get, like, spell warded or something like that, or bopped to remove debuffs. But this was one of those cases where the only reliable way to clear it was Blood DK AMS. And because it was an ad fight, grip was really helpful there too. And there were other fights, or there were other bosses within this raid where grips were also really good. And, like, Razageth grips were really good as well. I'm fairly certain, it's been a while, I'm pretty sure Race to World First was Blood DK Prot Warrior? Though, it's been a hot minute. they might have been, like, not running Race to World first, but, like, every other guild ran it, kind of similar to Lura. I don't remember exactly. I do know on the second to last boss, which still matters, it was run, because that was, like, the main strategy everybody did. And then, like, obviously, the further back we go, like, Blood DK was notoriously extremely overpowered in Sepulchre. Anduin Rin was another 2 Blood DK boss. But yeah, Blood was just broken, kind of like Emir Soul. It was meta. Sanctum, actually, another good example of Blood, was really undertuned this raid, and it was still, like, you always ran Blood DK for a Soul Render Dormazane, because similar thing, where the ability to mass grip the ads in this fight just made it really important. Now, this was a lot of times what guilds would do is they just run a third tank, right, and just have one Blood DK do the grips. So most guilds didn't run Blood for the entirety of Prague, but if I recall, it was still, like, okay. Like, a decent amount of people played it still. And then, God, I can't remember. Nathria, I think Blood was pretty bad. It was kind of weak. There were some potential for grips on some fights, but basically everybody ran Vengeance Demon Hunter this tier because it was really overpowered, and then other people ran... It was like a situation where I don't know if it was that Blood was bad or that raid buff tanks were so important this tier because some certain melee DPS specs, like the tuning, was not good. So basically everybody ran Vengeance, Prot Warrior, or Brew because some combination of those raid buffs you wanted to have on your tanks instead. And Blood was definitely undertuned that tier for sure. And there were no particular, like, you need grip bosses. And, like, I could keep going back in time, right? But, like, the same would be said of, like, I'm pretty sure... But, like, I'll be honest, my memory starts to get a lot fuzzy about, like, what the Race to World first strategies are. I could tell you, like, oh, yeah, this is where, like, grips are important in this fight, but it's... I mean, that's... We're getting to, like, 8 years ago or something like that? Is that how long BFA was? It's been a while, so... Yeah, I don't know. Nathria was Bear? Nathria was definitely not Bear, no. Bear has been in a bit of a rough spot for a while. It's very good now, but prior to Narubar Palace, basically the War Within changes, Bear was very weak for a long time. Bear might have been solid, right? It might have been okay that tier, but it definitely was not meta. Especially because it didn't bring any valid raid buff, because that's one of the issues for a very long time, where the other, like, Bear brought basically nothing. It didn't really have any particularly good tuning for the longest time, and the other Druid specs have always been so good that there's been no reason to run Bear. Nowadays, Bear is just so good. Like, Narubar Palace was a little bit weird, because Narubar Palace, Bear was good enough, and the other Druid specs were bad enough that it ended up being the meta tank. But it was pretty weak for the rest of the War Within. But then when they did the Midnight changes, now you just see Bear being brought along like Resto Druid, along Boomkin, because it's just a very strong tank on its own. And then if you need it to be the source of your Mark of the Wild, you can do that as well. But for a very long time, Bear was not in a great spot. Not, like, terrible, but not meta. That I definitely recall. That's where you had stopped and started Classic stuff? Yeah. Classic came out in Eternal Palace BFA. That's when Classic came out. My guild imploded, and I started playing Classic. I've been playing Classic on and off ever since it came out, but retail has always been my main focus. I usually, like, whenever there's a new release, a new expansion, I'll check it out, I'll play it for a little while, and then usually the new retail raid tier rolls around, and I don't have as much time anymore. Thanks for all the good info. Well, no problem. I enjoy talking about tanks. Like I said, I've been tanking for a very, very, very long time. It's fun to talk about. But yeah, it's been almost an hour since raid testing ended. I just kind of sat here and yapped, but it's fun to yap about. But yeah, I'll stop streaming now. I have more work to do on the Follow the Arrow 10 to 80 routes. Hoping to have a work in progress version of that done by the weekend. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching. Probably not going to stream raid testing tomorrow, but I'll post an update about that in my Discord. We'll see. I'll think about it. But either way, doing a normal raid test on Sunday. So there is a little bit more there. But yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you at some point in the next few days. Peace.